there's a number of ways that we want to think about that inner thigh, okay? And the most common position I talk about when teaching is the position that is officially for the Shaoyang Huantiao, but that it's a great position to get in here. What I like about this position is someone who's got leg problems that are both legs, whole legs, I can treat the outside, the inside, flip them and do that. But the other major reason why this is what I teach in seminars is this is a much more protected position for the person on the table. But we want to know that this is highly limited to how far we can get in, and the heavier they are, the more I can't get in there. So could you say, I need you to hold this leg up as high as possible, all sorts of things, and you're making an effort to get in there. But once you have the area, it's a very stable, solid position that I can work with. It's comfortable for me, okay? But if you lie on your back, right? This, however, in a figure 4, one, they may or may not be able to do this. So you'll see me a lot of this way. And then I have, if I don't have an assistant, all of a sudden I'm like, I don't have a cotton ball. I don't have my iPad. We have to plan way ahead. And this is a very, in the United States, exposed picture. I mean, it's why I really much prefer teaching in Europe, is people are not hung up about this stuff. But this does allow me to get into that symphysis pubis. I can drape, and then if it's a gentleman, I can go boom. If it's a woman, I can put a towel there so they feel a little more protected. But that does allow me to get into this. But for me, it's a much less stable position. And if I need to get something, if I need to find something, or if I need to change something, everything has to come out, because I can't just go boop. Their leg may not be able to handle it. Okay? So being aware of those positions, this gives us symphysis pubis access and gets in this position very easily, but has its limitations in terms of appropriateness. And for me, I've 100%, I've stuck bolsters under here. I've done all sorts of things, but in the end, all of those things can slide. And that sucks, right? When that happens. So now I just tend to rely on that. All the tables are basically set to a good height for me, so I can do this, but that's a challenge until the tables arrive. Wow, that's tight in there. So choosing our position, we can also face down really quickly. And you don't need the face curl, just turn over real quickly with your head sideways. Okay? We can 100% hang their feet off the edge and get in from this side. But that makes getting to the yang shao, which can be very important, challenging, but it does give us great access to the tai shao, which is a beautiful line on him. Okay? And it does give me access to this aspect of the crevice, but not the symphysis pubis. Okay? So I lose the yang ming binding that connects over to the Shaoyang, but I can get into that, and then stronger, tighter, thicker. You know, if you look, he's soft here, and then it starts to harden and gets quite hard in here, right? Okay, so let's turn you face up again. So we have our person, and we need to address the yin channels. We want to think of them as three very distinct lines, but I don't want you to think of them as which is Tai Yin, which is Shao Yin, which is Jie Yin. They are all here. They're all wide, and they're all depths. But within it, there are three major striations that we want to pay attention to. So there is the ASIS right here. And if I come across, I want to find this line. And that's a very specific line. And we could say that I'm hitting Yangming-ish, but from the side. I don't care how you look at it, as there's a top line. So that top line comes in, and I want to be able to know as it starts to migrate across where we get to, okay? There's the middle line, and that's the honker. That's the big, thick, whatever that is in the Western world of tight, okay? Okay, and that honker is here, and then there's the inside one.
Oh God, it's the worst.
Okay, so 3 very distinct lines. This might have to make YouTube. This is great. It's good education, and it's good to see just how tight and hard those are and how reactive they are. Okay, so we have our 3 lines, and they have different personalities. Remember, this is the big honker one. Okay,
They still hurt after you squeeze.
yeah, that's because you've got the thick where we push the thing, but because the whole area is so thick, what I push doesn't get a chance to move. It doesn't leave, so it's just irritated where it is, and it's going ding, ding, ding. It's the snow globe effect. This needs to be worked first, right? Which we'll get to that at the end part, or maybe in a second. Okay, so we want to be clear of these 3 lines, and if you see me needling this, you will see 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1. Okay, so I'll come down, but here they all start to meld together, and it's not like they separate, but they start to cross over. That I don't need 3, 3, 3. But I do need 3 very distinct areas here because they're so far from each other. So it's going to be 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, maybe 2, maybe 3 on him, yes. But here, it's going to be here and here. And then Jin-Huai. Okay? And all of this is going to be funneling, but the way it's so tight is it's going to affect what's in here. And so as I suspect, this being tight, this area goes dead. It's very hard, thick and hard. But if he was to come in and say, oh, my ankle and calf, and I keep working on this, not realizing that this up here is causing that problem down there. Now, much of this can be just what it is, and it can be due to cold. Cold is the most common issue where cold comes up the legs. Remember, cold seeps up the legs in Chinese medicine, and as it creeps and hardens, the qi is not strong enough to get in here and rewarm all this. Okay, so obviously there is blood in qi, otherwise it would be atrophied and dead. Okay, that's necrosis, that's frostbite, but not enough for it to be warm, and so it's tight, it's thick, and the tighter and thicker it is, the more this becomes hard, thick, and numb. And the harder and thicker this is numb, the more cold sits in it, the more cold can make its way up until it ends up like me at 57, where it's just so tight that stretching it is not going to do it, right? There's no way to stretch this into warmth. You can make it less aggravating, but you can't solve the fundamental issue until we introduce flow. The treatment strategy is not to needle it, because all we're doing is creating little islands of movement in an overall poor flow cold thing. So that's just irritating, right? There's enough spirit, i.e. qi and blood, that now it just aches. It's not fun. Not so much that he doesn't feel it. So this is where the massaging and warming first before the work, or even before any real major needling, or we just do a couple, that we do not overload this until we're moving there. So this is where we get to do the most fun massage. And this is, for most people, the least fun massage possible. But the good news is I've done this enough repeatedly for people that the amount, what you're about to watch of the leaping and jumping and everything, is if it's repeatedly massaged within a short period of time, there'll be a moment where it stops hurting, and all of a sudden they will literally, and every single patient has described it like it's warm, thick lava or fluid going down the leg, and it feels unbelievably wonderful. Now, let's say this was critical. I will tell you that in a seminar I was teaching, where this was part of the curriculum, I had the most incredible thing happen where a person had volunteered for a Shaoyang demonstration. So I treated the Shaoyang, and that leg later on in the day, that afternoon when we were doing this, didn't hurt. The other one, jumpy as all. So let's say this was critical. I would want to open up the other side. If it's a problem in the front, treat the back. If there's a problem above, treat below. If there's a problem on the inside, open this up so flow can actually happen enough that it was not tender. And it was fascinating because everyone's screaming and yelling in the seminar, except for this one Indian lady who was like super like yogi soft, but like had like 4 kids. She was like 60 or something, but she was awesome. This lady was like, any case, she was like, everybody could massage it, and she had no problems. Her chi flowed. Yes, it didn't flew. She did not fly. There was no fluing. I do, and I massage it because he's doing it for sports reasons, and he's doing silly things, and I like to keep him quiet. Uh, and I mean, I've got strong hands, but I don't have kung fu hands. Like I have little piano hands, like long, thin. So accuracy is more important than strength for me. That's how I make up. Everyone thinks I've got these super kung fu hands, and it's just because I'm very accurate. And then this allows you to get right up under the pubis and get in there. And then you give them a break. So this is the work that I would want to start with. Maybe hit a couple, depending on their personality, what's appropriate. Now, if somebody's tweaked it sports-wise, massaging is nice, but you just got to get that Asher work done and then settle it nicely. Like, remember, if this is the postre, right? If this is the end, you're not like, oh, and there's more in here. Oh, look at this. I mean, why would you do that, right? You've done that, the needles. You got to just be like, okay, all right. All right. This is getting the blood in there, getting the work in there, getting the work in there. Okay? And again, now that you all are here, pay attention, Lauren. It's not, okay? Feel that change across my hand. Right? See that? Now I'm going to hide it. Not because I'm trying to hide it, but because it's secondary to what I want, but what I want won't work if I don't have that shift. Now that you're paying attention to it, can you feel that? Whoop, whoop, whoop. I'm sorry? Mm-hmm. But the result is it warms faster, feels nicer. All right. So that's kind of like the inner leg 101 for what we want to do. And remember, there's 3 areas. There's this line. There's the honker, which is pretty low, right? A lot of people end up putting stuff in the empty space. So we want this. Now, okay, if he was really my patient and he paid me money, then I would be not just rushing into the needles. This is a demonstration on someone who actually has the problem. So he's missing all the setup. He's missing the work ahead of time. He's missing the prep. I haven't done a distal needle to lessen the channels. I haven't done anything because I want us to see what it really looks like when someone is stuck. So we have our upper line. And I want to know inside to outside, outside to inside, or dead center.
Inside, outside.
Yeah. All right. Pay attention. Which way we get to it makes a difference. So I'm going to trap and bring the inside upwards to the air. So I bring it up. Okay. Again, I lift my hand so far away from the skin, which is terrible, but so many years of video cameras have created bad habits.
Referring down the thigh.
Achy, referring down the thigh, jump. And it's a 3-dimensional tube. So I'm on top of what I rolled, I get to the side of it. Oh, look at that, huh? Coming in from the side, much more jumpy. Get the bottom of it, but I'm getting every aspect of the tube. And let's take a look on this side. So do you see how I went around? If we picture the muscle as a sausage, I went around the sausage to find. And then instead of being too tight with my grip, I'm going to give it a little space now and see what happens. Okay. Now we got the honker. The honker, I have to choose side, here, or top. You will find medial to lateral tends to be always the worst because that's the unprotected side being brought to the surface, and the outsides tend to be the turtle shell. Sorry about that. Okay. Woo! Oh, still sharp? Better or not sharp? Okay. So that means there's a blood vessel. I'm not in it, but I did poke it. But if they say sharp or maybe I'm not sure, take it out. There's no need to wait. Just achy. It's a big muscle. Deep fasciculation there. Okay, you get the idea.
So much more manageable than your hand, though.
Yeah, I'll tell you, hands are much worse than needles. Okay, palpate, feel that honker. Just assume with every flinch there's a fasciculation you can't see. Oh. 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 I'm bringing it up to the needle with this finger. Now, unless they very specifically are holding the symphysis pubis line, I do not suggest releasing that the first time, unless you know them, they're an old patient, and then something's happened. Hold on, Dave, there's one more. But in the name of science, today we want to really understand that there are problems that we really have to get right up along the bone. And so we have tight sinew. You can see, all right, and I'm not pushing very hard, okay? But you can see how bound up it is right across that line. How we doing? I mean, the camera's like watching you die here, right? He's fine. This is consensual. What did you do to yourself? I don't want to know. I don't want to know. All right. So, yeah, because there's a bone there. That's where the tear is. That's where it crosses the bone. So there's a lot of things that mean we may need to be right on the bone. But it's a different kind of sensation.
Yeah. And it's referring to my medial knee.
Medial knee. Okay? And what's important is if things are stuck there, inflammation, it's inflamed, it's engorged, or there, the needles are going to move the chi so it can be flushed through. If the needle is tight and hard and cold and there's no life, the needle is going to force life into it, right? So what we're basically doing is just restructuring the chi. What is hard and cold gets life. What is mean and angry gets exit. Okay, and I could keep going if that was necessary, or I could get right on.
Right there.
Yeah. So he feels it here. And again, like I said, a lot of issues on the outside are from the inside. A lot of inside issues are from the outside. So don't just treat what they say. If it's the problems in the front, treat the back. The problems in the back, you know what I mean, right? But I could follow this across, and I frequently do follow it across and get right to where he feels that. And he's got a beautiful little dink, 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 dink to make it appropriate for the circumstance. But if we don't see the full potential, then we may never know that that's the full spectrum. I'm up here on his belly. I'm not on his genitals. Now, this is where I'm going to reach in and find out what I missed for next time in my notes, right? So I'm going to go in and I'm going to no, I'm not going to do that. Why would I do that? Okay? That's mean. This is the Jedi mind trick. There were needles, but you needed them, and it's no big deal. Okay, I got way too excited, but actually, it was fine. And do our work, all right? Do our work. Reset it. Reset it. Remember, it's the reintroduction of the warmth and the flow, or it's the creating exit so what's stuck up in that line can go down. It's all of these ideas that we want to keep in mind. So know when we're doing what. Remember, I'm just demonstrating that inside. Problem of the inside, I definitely would have released something on the outside. Problem of the outside, I want to make sure I think about the inside.
When you're done and say you want to do some traction, what's your best way?
For this,
There's that line, an inner line.
a great question. So what am I going to do aside from that if I want to do traction? That's where attraction this way is good. But I will usually rely on, right? So if you've ever made Chinese dumplings and you've got like the line of dough and then you make it longer like a snake, so you go, that's what I'm doing here. I'm going to want to lengthen. Traction's hard to get to on this. And if they're injured, I can't do like, there are some fun massage therapists who will dangle your leg and then do work here. As long as the person's back is safe, this is actually a fun way to get in here. I tend to not do it because I just don't know their back, right? And if I'm just doing massage, this is fine. But if I hit an Asher and they have a big jump and their back is at a weird arch, so for instance, he's pretty good on this side, but on this side he's raised, but he'd probably handle it pretty well. But I don't like dangly parts that create attraction to a part of the body that I'm not in control of that may respond with a jump. But massage therapists who know this and do work, I love that because for me that's a tight area. All of us, but for me in particular, because of all this sitting in the airplanes and everything else, it really hardens up and gets cold, and I have to reintroduce life in there.